The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode.
The summer of 2004 at 20.
We are summer of 2004 at 20ing it again for the third week on the Brandon Peters Show. Today's episode lands us on the May 21st through 23rd weekend of that year. And back along for more from Puck and the Outside Scoop, which this week is the Shrek's Swirl Sherbet, a green-colored grape sherbet and purple-colored green apple sherbet loaded with popping candies, a Baskin-Robbins classic from the summer of 2004. Scott Mendelson.
I'm going to hypothesize that looks the same going in as it does coming out.
Oh, just a little darker. And from We Live Entertainment, Why So Blue, the Online Film Critics Society, and host of Out Now with Aaron and Abe. If you think that's a schizophrenic set of introductions, you're in the right place. It's Aaron Neuwirth.
Hey, that's me.
Hello. Here we go with a week that has a movie that nobody wanted to be near and nobody wanted to counter program for. I'm talking about Stateside. But yeah, this is interesting because this is just the sign of we're backing down from a juggernaut, which do we even get that now? Like it seems kind of weird. So we picked a couple new releases that were in lighter form this week. Scott, was there anything that like moved from Shrek or that would have been back in the day?
Not that I'm aware of.
Like they're just like, we're giving up. The adults like the first Shrek.
Smash hits coming. We need to move everything out of the way.
Not that I recall, because I mean the summer lineup was, to my recollection, pretty much set in stone pretty early on. It's not like Spider-Man 2 said, "Oh shit, I guess we're opening July 4th weekend."
Yeah.
I
mean, Maid of Honor even opened against Spider-Man 3. Like I think that was
Monster-in-Law.
It was Monster-in-Law?
Monster-in-Law.
Okay, which one did Maid of Honor roll alongside?
Iron Man.
Iron Man? Okay, yeah. Yeah, okay. But yeah, that was fun. I'm like, yeah, nobody wants to touch Shrek 2. And that only helps Shrek 2. Like, I can't. What would you put against it?
Did Shrek 2 do okay? Is that...
Well, stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Make sure. Put a pin in that one.
Stay tuned. But yeah, well, before we get to all that, let's peel back our first layer of the episode to get to the news. All right. We got some good stuff here to start out. On May 17th, Massachusetts becomes the first U.S. state to
legalize same-sex marriage.
Congratulations, Scott. You won. Aaron, better luck next time.
I thought it was too early. I thought we were worse than that.
If a man and a man want to do something outside Dunkin' Donuts, what do I care? Huh? Right?
That's an excellent Massachusetts accent.
Yeah.
Real asshole over here.
Yeah. A couple Patriots players want to date Celtics players. What do I care? You know? So, yeah, that's I just like, oh, that good on us somewhere in the U.S. for having that in our history that early. I was like, oh, okay. Scott, we got some baseball news for you. I know you were fiending for it all summer. On May 18th, Arizona Diamondbacks Randy Johnson becomes the 16th player to throw a perfect game in a 2-0 match against the Atlanta Braves.
I remember that, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah. My dad was watching that. He's like, you got to see this.
Yeah, he's got to do it. The next time he called you down, he threw a ball and it exploded a bird.
I remember that.
Yeah, I remember that. When I first started, I'm like, oh, is this the... Oh, no, he threw a no-hitter. Boring.
To be fair, that bird had it coming.
It did. I don't want to live. On May 19th, some hockey.
Did the bird get to take the base?
So on May 19th, the NHL Western Conference Final, the Calgary Flames beat the San Jose Sharks 4-2. On May 20th, the cult. This is, they described it. Romantic film, The Notebook. Cult.
Oh, that little cult favorite.
Premieres at the Seattle Film Festival.
Where it all started.
Where it all began.
Classic Sparks move. Seattle.
Seattle.
The place he's known for. The West Coast in the North.
Yeah. Cult classic. Right. So on May 21st, Sherpa Pemba Georgie climbs Mount Everest in 8 hours and 10 minutes. Both named Sherpa. Lakpa Gelu's record from the previous year.
This is why
the previous guy.
Whenever I see someone gets like a new record for like Mario speed run, I'm like, did you climb Mount Everest? No, I do not care about your accomplishment. I'm sorry.
I don't want to go back up there again.
When you beat Donkey Kong, I give you a nod. If you played Mario really fast, I don't give a fuck.
Oh, and May 21st, Stanislav Petrov awarded World Citizen Award for averting a potential nuclear war in 1983 after correctly guessing Russian early warning system at fault. Congratulations.
When you do it, you do it.
21 years later, you have been awarded.
The mail is very slow over there.
Yeah. The next day, at the Cannes Film Festival, Fahrenheit 9/11, directed by Michael Moore, wins the Palme d'Or. First documentary to win.
And that's the last we'll hear about that.
Yeah. That's it. End of the road. That same day at the English FA Cup final, Millennium Stadium in Cardiff, Manchester United beats Millwall 3-0. So
good.
There you go. Ruud van Nistelrooy scores 2, and Cristiano Ronaldo, that's a soccer name I know, or football. Sorry, football. He scored 1 in the Red Devils' 11th title win. Also, on that, it's a big day, this May 22nd. Manmohan Singh becomes the 13th Prime Minister of India. Then he was probably that night to celebrate watching the NHL Eastern Conference Final. The Tampa Bay Lightning beat the Philadelphia Flyers 4-3. Yeah. And not to be outdone, but rugby had their Super Rugby final in Canberra. ACT Brumbies claimed their second title with a 47-38 win over Canterbury Crusaders.
Is it actually called Super Rugby?
Super Rugby final.
Huh.
That's where they have fireballs and capes.
Yep.
I'd watch that.
Yep. The big leagues is the Super Rugby Final Turbo. That's what they
Championship edition.
Championship edition. Yeah.
You have to take on Dalsim and E Honda at the very end.
It's tough shit.
These are great 90s references we're throwing in here.
Just big Chun-Li and kick until they're dead.
So last thing on that same day, the U.S. town of Hallam, Nebraska is wiped out by a powerful F4 tornado that broke a width record at an astounding 2.5 miles wide, and it killed 1 local resident. So, Mount Everest record or tornado record?
I would have to guess that's probably not a record anymore the last 10 years.
But yeah, so
Worcester used to be the hot spot. So
yeah. And then the next day, May 23rd, part of Paris, Charles de Gaulle's airport Terminal 2E collapses, killing 4 people
Avengers
and
again.
injuring 3 others. Which that leads us into the deaths of the week.
Finally.
Tony Randall.
Oh,
actor.
okay.
He passed away this week. Richard Biggs, another actor, star of Babylon 5 and Days of Our Lives.
Jason's dad.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Ramon Margalef, a scientist. Edgardo Martin, Cuban pianist and composer. Jorgen Nash, Danish artist. Lincoln Kilpatrick, an actor. Elvin Jones, jazz drummer. Mary Dresselhaus, she's an actress. Lord Murray of Epping Forest. And then Russian-Soviet gymnast Mikhail Voronin. 3 weeks in a row. We have a birthday. We have a birthday. Star of Andy Mack and Doogie Kemialoa, MD, Peyton Elizabeth Lee, born this day, now 19 years old.
Cool.
Okay.
So, yeah. That's the news for the week. So we will get to our build up to Shrek 2, the one you all wanted to come. But before we get green, we're going to go with some people that are mean in Love Me If You Dare, playing in 3 theaters this week.
Julian and Sophie were 2 mischievous kids. Who invented an outrageous game. Whoever held the tin box would meet the other's dare. Shh. The rule was simple. Are you game or not? But as they grew older, the stakes grew higher. The dares became dangerous. Until the gamble was more than just a game. It was an obsession. Better than sex. Better than love. Sophie! Better than life itself. From Paramount Classics and the visionary mind of director Jan Samuel comes France's hit comedy. For better, for worse, for now, and forever. Love Me If You Dare.
Directed by Jan Samuel, written by Jan Samuel, starring Marion Cotillard, Guillaume Canet, Gerard Watkins, Emmanuel Grunwald, Gilles Lelouch, Julia Farr, and Elodie Navarre. Best friends Julian Hanvier and Sophie Kowalski begin playing a game of dares as children and find themselves unable to stop as they grow older, even when the game threatens to destroy their lives. So last week, Diane Kruger was here, and this week we're talking about her at the time spouse, who later becomes a partner, still this day, I believe, with Marianne Cotillard with 2 children. So,
Part of the game?
huh?
Is that part of the game?
It was that part of the game. So,
Marry Diane Kruger, I dare you.
yeah.
What a sucker.
Oh, I had to go from Diane Kruger to Marianne Cotillard. Oh, so tough. Life is hard. But apparently, Diane Kruger and him are still good friends and still keep in touch. So Aaron, I dare you to start the conversation here.
This one's a little tricky because it feels like the director's doing like their own version of a Jean-Pierre Jeunet film, as far as its style and how it's constructed or whatnot. Like they've seen Amelie and they're like, let's kind of roll with this to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
And it's mixed with, of all things, this kind of I don't know, kinetic 2004 notion, and like just there's a lot of there's stuff that I don't want to say dated because it's weird to call it that, but like it feels very of its time for how it's constructed. And like on top of that, it's like, what if we have this kind of Amelie-like movie and we combine that with, I don't know, Jackass? And I can appreciate what that story is, because there's something fun to be had there as far as two people that grow up together and dare each other. Like there's something fun about that. And when they do certain dares, I certainly had fun watching like that escalation or that process. The problem I have is, without spoiling too much stuff, like towards the end, it becomes a matter of, we know that there's going to have to be a resolution of this because it's the rom-com.
Mhm.
It's going to have to end a certain way. But the amount of stuff they put on both parties as they grow older, another thing I actually like, the fact that we see them over time, it makes them feel self-centered and selfish by the end of this movie. And so it's hard for me to get on board with what the outcome is, given all the things that are in their separate lives that they've lived and seemingly are happy with. And I'm rooting against them being together by the end of this movie, which I feel like is exactly not what you want from a romantic comedy. I like both of these people. I think Marion Cotillard is very good here. I like Guillaume should like, and he's a talented director as well. He did a movie called Tell No One that I really like. It's a solid mystery film. But like the overall story it's telling, I think, is just inherently flawed. So like, I like that it's aiming for something. I like that it has this kind of setup for it. I like the style of it, like regardless of how it of 2004 it feels. But I can't really like go along with how it chooses to resolve itself. So that's where I'm at with this movie.
Gotcha, Scott.
I more or less agree. It's sort of a, this is the kind of buffoonery that I cannot sanction. Um, I mean, it's a cute premise in the opening act, especially when they're still children, and they are very clearly coping with certain traumas. But you get to a point where it's like, okay, the cure is worse than disease. It's like I found myself rooting against action. And by that I mean, if part of the appeal is watching these young adults and eventually adults, basically engage in this weirdo, dare game, that's what it is. And it's like, I don't want them to do it because they seem up to, there's a point where they both seem very happy with their lives as it exists without them. And it's like, I don't want them to get to be reunited and to reinvigorate this game that's frankly causing psychological and physical torment. And I think the movie's aware of that. I don't think it's oblivious, especially considering how it ends. But again, this is you're right. It's a classic rom-com where it's like, I don't want the main couple to get together, where it's like they are terrible for each other.
It'd be like if Julia Roberts did get with Dermot Mulroney. It's like, wait a minute, hold on. Poor Cameron Diaz is over here doing nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Well, this is, I mean, I think like this would be like, well, like what if like young adult, but Patrick Wilson like leaves his wife for Charlize,
yeah.
And I have to wonder how, like, I can look it up, but like how old the director was at the time he wrote it and where he was at in life as a person, because there's a certain point, an age you would get to where you wouldn't write this or you wouldn't go with this resolution that they come up with here.
I agree, but on the other hand, I mean, even when I was a kid, I maybe it's just 'cause I was a stick up the ass even at a young age, but it's like I wasn't rooting for Winona Ryder to run off with Ethan Hawke. Even then I knew what the sensible choice was.
Depends what crowd you ran around with, because
I mean, Ben Stiller's a successful businessman with a lot of connections, and Ethan Hawke just has hair.
In the 90s, in the teen world, there's a very damn the man.
Well, but I saw that movie when I was like 13, 14, and even then it's like,
fair,
okay,
Scott, nobody listening to you thinks this guy probably knew what was up when he was 13 years old. No one pictures you looking any different than you do now, just maybe a little shorter.
See, like with Reality Bites, which is one of the like worst resolutions in a movie that's clear as day, but like at the time as a kid, you're like, oh, this guy, he's like putting a finger toward the man. He's a musician. He says all these like poetic type, he's so worldly. And then you go back and as an adult and you're like, oh, what a fucking loser. What is
I
she
thought he was
doing?
a loser then.
Not to stray too far, because we'll talk about this with Before Sunset in our thing, right?
Yeah, that's actually this summer.
Okay, so we'll get more to Ethan Hawke, but the way he's evolved as an actor is entirely reflective of this conversation, as far as how
and
was this director like whatnot. So,
but I bring that up because I think even if I had seen this as a kid, I still would have thought, no, you're happy over here and over here. You don't need to be over here. Stop it. And there's plenty of examples where obviously horror is an exception for obvious reasons, but in most films, if you create a situation where the audience, if they care about the character's emotional well-being, they don't want them to do the thing, then watching them do the thing for most of the movie is going to be the opposite of entertaining. To use a very silly example, the final season of supposed to be the final season of 24, season 8, where it establishes where Jack Bauer's so happy and healthy that's like, when the guy comes up to his apartment and says, I need you to get back in the game, it's like, no, go back to bed, don't do it. And that's not how I should feel watching a season of 24. And that's frankly how I felt for at least the last half of this movie.
Let's just keep in mind that you have a fountain of knowledge about various movies, and your thought went to season 8 of 24. one of the timeliest and most relevant references that our listeners will understand. Smash that subscribe.
It's a very obvious example to explain what I'm talking about.
It is the obvious example, yes.
Okay, Lilo and Stitch is another one where it's like,
I can't even think of
leave them the hell alone.
You're
gonna ruin
That's a
their
perfect
There you go. Lilo and
example.
Stitch works. Yeah. We'll be talking about a kid's film at the end of this. So
who's even the villain in season 8 of 20? I can't think of this.
I remember season 8 where the guy from Slumdog gets killed, or is that season 7?
Yes.
Okay.
No, that's 8.
Because that was like when I was like, oh, 24 pulled off magic again. But
Devane still president or something? Or like,
yeah, he's president. Remember, he's president.
His daughter,
he has
he's dating his
dementia.
daughter. Yeah.
He survives. Audrey, not so much.
Brandon, what did you think of the movie?
No, I am right there with you guys. Like this started out and I'm like, oh, what is this? This is really
it's got style, it's got performances.
You're right on the money with Jean-Pierre Jeunet. But I was also getting some Brian Fuller type feels.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, this is like, and not exactly like there's no supernatural to this, but I was like, it's like Brian Fuller looking. So I immediately went like, oh, this is like the pair from Pushing Daisies if they were both assholes. Like that's like, oh,
that's almost a 20-year-old show. Jesus God.
It's yeah. That's a cult classic, right?
That one kind of is.
It could be called that.
Saying Fuller, that just makes me think, well, yeah, it's Sonnenfeld. Like,
yeah.
It's like if there was a millennial Sonnenfeld making this movie. Like
I'm visually technically impressed with this movie. While I'm super like mixed toward negative here on this movie, it had enough here to have me interested in seeing more films from Jan Samuel if I could check them out. Like I was like, I like what you're doing. Like you're not making a boring movie. It is one thing. You're making one that I'm questioning things. But I think we're all with this movie for about 3/4 of the way till it's like, ooh, I feel like there's 2 movies this week where I'm like, what is with your? I don't think your resolution fits or helps the movie you've got here, and but we'll get to Shrek 2 later.
I'm saying they're gonna play it. I agree with you.
No, so there. I think the Dare thing's fun to a point, but then they make this decision to have this ridiculous time jump, and that does it no favors. And it wants to challenge you, but it doesn't challenge the characters. It lets them have like this, and we're supposed to go with it. And it hurts, like, and not because like it's a movie. Just like, no, don't do all this. And
there's nothing else there. Like there's no magical realism or anything. So you're just sitting there being like, this is real life now, and this is still what we're doing. Like there's no out for this.
And then before, like right before he finds her, and he asks her to be a part of his wedding. and she's working at a coffee shop. So we get the idea that he's doing well in life. He went to school. He's got the suit. He's got the, and then she's not doing well. And then she makes this, I don't mind the wedding thing where she comes to crash the wedding and act, and it's like, oh, that's where you do it. But then like we have this time jump, and now she's married this professional athlete that's like, and like he's mad because she out successed him or something. So I'm like, I don't know if the movie realizes it's doing that. I think it tries to play it like he's pining for her, but it comes off as like, oh, you're not happy for her success. Like she was probably fine with yours, but it gets in this whole mishmash, and the dare thing goes like too far. And while I don't agree with the resolution, there's a neat aspect to the ending that they do and kind of cute, but I'm still like against it. If that makes any fucking sense.
I will
tries
say
to have its cake and eat it too.
Yeah,
it does. I will say though, if the Notebook replaced its ending with one, I'd be very happy.
If what?
If the Notebook replaced this ending with theirs, I'd be very happy.
There we go.
More on that later on this summer.
Did you guys get like what? Like when the song La Vie en Rose became like a staple of this, like a important part of this movie?
I feel like
I'm
pretty sure that's in Cotillard's writer at this point, between this, Inception, and the movie she won the fucking Oscar for.
Yeah, I was like, wait, she wins an Oscar for a movie on this. Like, just a couple years later, I was like, what? That was weird. And then the guy.
I like to think that Nolan is just a big fan of this specific movie, and he doesn't care about the one that he won the Oscar for. He's like, yeah, I love that. I'm gonna put that song in the movie.
And the Kane, whatever, the guy, like for a good third of the movie was bugging. I'm like, who does he? He looks like a young Jeff Bridges, and that I was like, okay, that's who he looked like, because it was bugging me. I'm like, he's reminding me of somebody. Okay. He's reminding me of somebody. I was like. And I was like, okay, young Jeff Bridges. That's what I was.
I've seen him enough where but yeah, no, I could see that. Yeah.
Screen presence, not so much the same, but like the facial.
Yeah.
Look, yeah, but yeah. So yeah, this one, like, yeah, I get it. I would, Marion Cotillard is probably hard to turn down, but like, yeah, it's a weird thing because it's like, wait, are they together? Aren't they? Like, what? Like their high school stuff and. It's just, it's an odd movie. I'd rather watch movies like this than vanilla shit any day of the week. Even if I don't agree with this one actually felt like somebody was really into this, knew what they were doing, like creating a interesting visual movie, and at least characters that had us interested so much that we got angry at the end of the movie. Like,
in the tradition of Collateral Beauty and Book of Henry.
Did you watch this in SD?
I think mine was in. I watched it on Hoopla.
Yeah,
it wasn't on Hoopla for me.
Sometimes on Hoopla, you've got to go to Just Watch, click the Hoopla button. It takes you to your account and finds it, and then you hit borrow there, and then you put it on your TV and do it.
It didn't give it to me. But
their search functions.
I know it does. Maybe I just tried to watch it too late or something. I don't know.
I watched it Monday.
Then fucking, I don't know. I watched it Sunday. Gotcha. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, no, I watched it SD because you're talking about the visual style, and it looked terrible as far as like the transfer or whatever. But like, but I could still. That's why I'm saying like Genet, like it just feels very apparent that there's like effort being put into cinematography and whatnot that I could appreciate. So.
Yeah, it's a good looking movie. Got a lot of great lighting and angles and just set pieces and some cool, like, just like interesting sets and visual effects that, it really, the rain stuff in this movie is really cool.
Yeah.
When it's in the rain. Another movie that has some really cool rain stuff is Yuva. That is our next movie, playing in 30 theaters this week. कभी शहद शहद कभी नरम नरम कभी सख्त सख्त कभी नीम नीम कभी शहद शहद कभी नरम नरम कभी सख्त सख्त मोरा पिया मोरा पिया मोरा पिया directed by Mani Ratnam, written by Anurag Kashyap and Mani Ratnam, and starring Ajay Devin, Abhishek Bakakan, Rani Mukhujeri, Vivek Oberoi, Kareena Kapoor, Asa Deol, Om Puri, and Sanu Sood. At one point, Shah Rukh Khan was attached to this movie. Did not work out. Michael, Arjun, and Layan, three men from three different strata of society, cross paths one morning in Calcutta and change one another's lives forever. I felt like this episode should start with us beginning this conversation and then go back and show each of us how we got to this conversation. Wouldn't that be cool?
And then when we got to the conversation, there'd still be half a podcast to do.
Yeah, that's true. So, Scott, you have been, I think of the three of us, you've been a champion of Hindi movies and stuff for a bit longer, though we all three
By
here
default.
enjoy that by default. But no, I think
No,
you've been paying attention a lot
yeah.
longer.
I mean,
not that
in
we
that
haven't
sense,
been watching them, but I think you're pretty much in the know a lot better.
in terms of what I want out of Indian cinema, this didn't have nearly enough XXX Mission Impossible for my tastes. That being said, no. It's interesting because
rules.
Pathan fucking rocks.
That is a movie.
Apparently that came out a year ago when we were recording this, so okay.
Yeah.
Happy birthday. So anyway, no, it is an interesting example of how even in a film industry that's often typecast as being very nationalistic and not going against the grain, they still have mainstream pictures that are relatively political and somewhat antagonistic in terms of their politics. And we kind of had this conversation back when I'm going to hell. Is it Jawan or Javan? I can never remember which is
Jawan.
Which. Thank you, Jawan, which was a very upfront,
no man,
get off your ass and do something political, thriller, comedy, whatever, everything and more. That movie is like all the movies. But this one is a bit more conventional. It's basically
it does have a mummy fight.
No.
or a motorcycle gang taking on trucks.
No, that does not happen in this picture. This feels more like an attempt by, and again, I don't want to be too generic here, but Indian cinema attempting to make a narratively backwards, forwards political thriller, something akin to Traffic or sorry, what was the one?
A hyperlink film is the term
yes.
for these.
Yes.
And in that sense, it's fine. I mean, it's the characters are relatively well defined. It looks great. It's surprisingly well paced considering it's 2.5 hours and more, although for an Indian film, that's probably,
it's a short one.
Short. Honestly, I would watch more of these if they weren't so gosh darn long. I mean, if anyone else in my family gave a damn, that would help, but whatever. But as for this one, yeah, I was surprised by the fact that the core three stories about the three main characters that you think would take up most of the movie are basically the first hour and a half, give or take. They each get 30 minutes a pop, and then you're back into the present tense. As someone that wasn't all that into the first story, not that it's bad, but it just watch this criminal be terrible to people that don't deserve it for 30 minutes. I was almost a little sad to go back to his, to that world after the preceding hour of, slightly chummier, nicer people in their romantic melodramas. But it ends well. The closing action scene, it's not larger than life by any stretch of the imagination, but it has a certain authenticity that, for me at least, I found it very suspenseful, because it's I mean, I don't want to say I assume it's practical because it was 20 years ago but whatever, but it felt suspenseful and authentic and very gripping by virtue of its plausible structure. And yeah, it's also the kind of film that the way it sets up its story there is suspense even for the protagonists, because the story can come to a natural end, even if some of them die, none of them die, all of them die, et cetera, et cetera. So there is a certain suspense in terms of how the stories, the conflicts in the film are going to play out. It's more than just, will she marry the idiot that she, will she go through her arranged marriage or not? It's a little bit more complicated than that. So yeah, I mean, as a I don't want to say early, but earlier attempt for India to do an of the moment political melodrama of this nature, I thought it was pretty compelling.
Gotcha. Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, the last movie we just talked about, it was like, Amelie for 2004. This feels like Amoros Paros for 2004. Obviously more politically upfront about what it's trying to do than that film is, because it's less about that. It's more about the country. I like this film fine. I don't feel like the pace was like a problem, but it did feel like I was waning in interest here and there as far as what the stories were. Like I can agree with Scott that yeah, the first guy that we're with is an asshole, and so like seeing him do asshole things, sucks after a while. But I was also inherently interested. It's kind of like surely there will be like an arc for this character, which there kind of isn't. So I was just which is what I'm talking about. It's like I have certain things I'm expecting or like ideas of where things could go, and they don't really go that way. And it's not that I'm disappointed that it doesn't go that way. It's more like, okay, so now what are we doing? And then it's kind of like loses me a bit. Then I get like wrapped up in the next plot. So I'm like, okay, let's see where this is going. And then it's just like it felt like it was going up and down for me as far as interest goes. Because like I was following along happily and like enjoying the fact that like, okay, seeing different things, a little too much violence against women, but whatever. There's musical numbers as I would hope for in these movies. Not an action movie per se. So I'm like, okay, like I can get behind what we're doing here, but I can't say the story like grip me in the way where a film like if being spoiled of stuff like Jawan that like has larger than life elements or what have you, regardless of like I'm not necessarily expecting that sort of spectacle, but like watching a film like this that feels more quaint by comparison, obviously, it's like there's only so much I'm really taking away from it. If I'm not too wrapped up in the three different storylines, then there's not much else for me here. Because stylistically, I don't think this director compares to other Indian films that I've seen that kind of try to do interesting stuff. I think the A.R. Rama score, who also did RRR, is way better than this movie is. So that kept kind of throwing me off also because I was like, the music's great throughout this thing, and I wish like I was being amped up more by the combination of that with story, and I just wasn't really getting there. The end climax stuff is fine. Like I agree with you. It does the issue, not even an issue, but it turns into Blade 2, where they're fighting and then they turn to digital doubles and then to go back to themselves again every now and again. And I'm like, all right, like I see the tricks. But that's par for the course when it comes to non-Hollywood cinema special effects on certain budget levels where you can see the seams pretty quickly. But like that doesn't necessarily bother me. It's just more of an observation. But in terms of like creative fights in certain scenarios of watching it and be like, I like what we're doing here. But I also like see where we're like jerking ourselves out of like the reality for a bit to like cause certain things to happen. Overall, yeah, I think the movie's fine. Like it's not, I didn't regret watching it by any means. It just wasn't like wrapped up in it the way I would have liked.
Yeah, it's a fine movie. It was kind of like it did get to the point with these three perspectives that we lead up where the third one happened. I'm like, oh, how many people are we going to do here? It's one thing to do this guy and then this guy, but then a third one popped up and it was all right. And there's kind of a repetitiveness with them in terms of
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
what these guys are doing. Like each one's got a woman and they've gotta kind of treat her like shit or like, have these similar the relationship issues are what like you could have them each have a relationship, but not all of them feel the same, with them and everything like that. But, this one it's got some of the action, which, I want Pathan, but I'll take what I get here. Like the end sequence where they're all fighting on that bridge highway thing, which, full circle, that's where they all met. like I hear what you're saying, but I like it. Like, it feels like I like the idea of what they're presenting, so I'm into it more than some of the execution. If that makes sense, like it's big.
Again, I wasn't not into it. It's just more I'm just observing.
Yeah.
Like I found myself as interested in figuring out how it's being made, along with the fact that I'm seeing it presented this way.
Yeah. So I'm watching. I'm like, why does none of the traffic stop during this fight at the end? I don't want it to, because it makes it a little bit more suspenseful and exciting.
Now you sound ridiculous.
But why don't they? Why
Why do they?
There's a lot of traffic going on.
Why do they keep dancing in John Wick? There's all this action going. I don't fucking care.
Yeah. I don't know. I was like, all right, they keep going. Well, but for how long the fight is, then I start going. I'm like, huh, okay. At some point, like, I feel like there should have been like a bear, like the cars stopped to make like an arena around them or something like that.
Maybe there's just fights every 10 miles on the freeway. They're used to it. They're like,
I got 10 on these guys down here.
But yeah, I mean, the movie wasn't considered a masterpiece then, and it clearly isn't now. But it was,
well, the thing I also like that carries on here with these indie movies is they wear their heart on their sleeve big time.
Yeah,
like I like how earnest they are, and just like beloved of movies they are. Like, they're like, you know what, they aren't afraid to have movie logic or have movie dialogue or, you know, things like that. Like they're or, you know, things that get accused of being movie like. They're like, hey, if we gotta hit a trope here, we gotta hit a trope here. Like, who gives a shit? And I like that. Yeah, it's got solid action, some solid drama. It is long, and it'll feel long at some point. Apparently I read there's 2 versions of this movie. Like, they shot it in 2 different languages with different casts.
What? Okay.
And I can't find anything on the other one.
But
the Spanish version is actually better, except for the lead performance.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, like, it's Hindi and then like Telugu or whatever.
Yeah,
Telugu. Yeah, they shot it both those with different casts, and some of the supporting people are the same. Like, if they were bilingual, they got to do both. But the main cast, different.
they shot a scene. They're like, get out of there, guys, come in, and they like shot the same scene.
Yeah, or something like that. That's what I read. I can't confirm.
Wait, who am I today?
You didn't capture them. You got their stunt doubles, you idiots.
Right. So there is a Spanish Dracula 1931 of this. Like, that's what we have of this movie. I did like I said, the rain scenes look cool in this, the way they have it. There's the musical numbers work for me pretty good. They bounce, they're boogie. I like it. But this is very I would say like a minor for if you're getting into Hindi film stuff, and if you have watched the ones that are modern or have been more recent, this is like seeing where they've come from, but isn't gonna hit you as big as those.
Because I wouldn't call it like it's not a gateway film either in these movies. Like, there's like Three Idiots is like around this time as well, which is a much better movie.
But like Pathan last year charged me up. This movie just made me go. This is neat.
And Pathan's also very accessible too. Like, that's it's not asking much of you to begin with to go into that movie.
Yeah. So, but
it gives so much.
But yeah, these movies were making money regardless. We'll talk about that later, but it's pretty nifty to see. It's not a newfound phenomenon or anything. It's a growing one at this point in 2004. But yeah. So, Scott, was there anything that reminded you of 24 in this movie at all?
Well, there's that one scene in no, not off.
No. Okay.
Doesn't Anil Kapoor like become a guest at 24 for like a season?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Wait, is that season 8? Is that season?
Yeah, that's the same. Wait, he died.
Yeah.
So okay. Well, 24 though, nothing here for that, and nothing for it in the top 10 of the TV ratings this week. So we head on.
She was lucky she wasn't on the strip. That's Highway Patrol's jurisdiction. She blew .09. Technically, she's over. but they just lowered the limit, so we cut her a break and didn't book her. But we did have to call the supervisor.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the courtesy.
No problem.
Come on. I'll take you home.
So this week, no Friends, no Frasier. They're done forever. Friends ain't coming back. Frasier is never coming back.
Ha!
So, okay. So number one this week was...
Timeline, are you in? Can I come?
Yeah. Number one this week is CSI. 25.4 million viewers. Number two, American Idol Tuesday edition. 0.3.6, which just for you young viewers, this is when American Idol was on Fox. Same channel as The Simpsons. Now it's on ABC. Number three, this is a fun one. So number one, CSI. Number two, American Idol Tuesday. Number three, CSI Miami.
Yeah.
Number four, American Idol Wednesday.
Woo.
Number five, Without a Trace.
Which one's Without a Trace again?
The blonde. Oh no, that's Cold Case is the blonde. Without a Trace, is that the guy from Empire
names,
Records?
right?
Is Without a Trace Empire Records guy?
Yeah. Anthony LaPaglia?
Yeah.
LaPaglia. Yeah.
From
I'm terrible at that game.
Sorry, I Married an Axe Murderer.
Yes.
Summer of '93.
Summer of veteran Mike Myers.
Alan Arkin's scene partner, Anthony Pellegrino.
Right. Then we get to another double dose. Law and Order at number 6 and Law and Order SVU at number 7.
When did SVU start? Like, did it start?
Fall 99.
Yep.
That's how long this show is. This is on forever. Oh my god.
Kick Gunsmoke's ass and keep going.
Yeah.
It's going after Sesame Street now.
Yeah. Number 8, Everybody Loves Raymond.
All right.
Everybody Loves Raymond. Number 9, 2.5 Men.
I refuse to sing that song.
Yeah, there you go. We'll have you singing it by the end of the. Number 10, Cold Case. So,
Yeah.
fun fact. Number 11 this week was the season finale of That 70s Show.
Yeah.
Which would be the only, or no, Fox has American Idols in there. But I believe this is when Topher Grace, he didn't quite leave the show, but the next season he was sporadically on the show, and then he would leave it.
Yeah.
Good. But this is like this is when he said like sort of goodbye, and then popped up again.
Then he eventually goes to Africa. That's what he does.
What if we kept going? Yeah, it's one of those sitcoms things where they go, what if we kept going without the guy we're pretty much following?
8 simple rules.
The Office, that, hey, Steve Carell's gone. Let's keep going for way more years than you'd imagine. All right. But, oof.
Mom is another one with Anna Faris.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. We're going to go to Stateside next. I have no segue. So there you go. Playing in 156 theaters.
He was a rich kid in high school whose life was headed in the wrong direction. She was a Hollywood starlet whose mind was out of control.
Don't blow this. Now you're confrontational with your audience. I mean, what is the problem?
I'm going home.
Sentence is hereby suspended, pending honorable discharge from the U.S. Marine Corps.
You are here because you could not be trained to become men by the mothers of America.
I can remember.
Now fate will bring two people together.
Hey. Don't you recognize her? Who you are clinging to is Miss Dory Lawrence.
You're Dory Lawrence?
She's on the 3rd floor right now with her internist.
Do you want to go on a date?
Yes.
But I'm wondering, is this really me? Am I really this guy?
Well, I'm really this girl, so you must be him.
Hoorah! Hoorah! I just love her.
She's pretty sick, Mark.
But everyone needs a reason to go on.
This is Dory Lawrence.
Who is that spacey girl? Is she a mental patient?
She's an actress and a mental patient. And I'm asking you if she can stay here while I'm away.
Well, let me give it to you straight, Mark. No!
Someone to come home to.
Dory has a lot going for her, and I believe she has a chance. I guess what we're asking you to do is to grow up and just not see her.
I want to marry her.
I'm ready.
Aren't you going overseas?
Yes.
That doesn't do her much good, does it?
Rachel Lee Cook, Jonathan Tucker, Agnes Bruckner, Val Kilmer.
When you look at me, I'm free.
Directed by Reverge Anselmo. He also wrote it. Starring Jonathan Tucker, Rachel Leigh Cook, Agnes Bruckner, Val Kilmer, Joe Mantegna, Carrie Fisher, Diane Venora, Ed Begley Jr., and Daniel Franzese. The film follows a rebellious teenager on leave from the Marines who falls in love with a female musician. The relationship is threatened when she develops a mental illness. She had it before they had the relationship. That's a bad synopsis. This is based on a true story, apparently. The character of Dory is rumored to be based on actress Sarah Holcomb from Animal House and Caddyshack. If anything, I feel like this movie feels like a fantasy version of this reality, if anything.
Yes. Yeah.
Because this movie, if I had compliments for a movie that I was disagreeing with the Love Me If You Dare, I don't hear with Stateside. I don't know where it wants to be. It's kind of an unnecessary setup with everything. But I guess this guy is trying to share some of his life story, what happened to him. Where, being a shithead teen, he joins the Marines to get out of trouble. And his dad's like a senator or mayor. God, he's some political guy that breathes and stuff. And he dates a schizophrenic celebrity, which if she wasn't a celebrity, would he have had a crush? Because he recognizes her. So that's how he knows. And it's another relationship where I'm like, I don't know what you're doing. And then it's just this kind of blah movie about this guy's in a was this like the shitty version of Officer and a Gentleman, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
So like the guy hurts himself on purpose so he doesn't get deployed. I think he does it on purpose, and he can stick with this girl who's schizophrenic. He keeps getting warned she's schizophrenic, and then like he doesn't want to help her when people ask, and then they're like, "Hey, stay the fuck away from her." And
stop selling this movie so well.
I know. And then so like they do that, and then like they have like the worst possible shit happen to him, and they're like, and then they're good, and she's fixed, and all this, and I'm like, I don't know.
Spoilers.
I don't give a fuck. This movie is hard to find, and it is now 20 years old. And the resolution was just like, what the fuck is, like, what? Like, it's like they think a time jump can force the ending they want, and doing a lot of shit like, I don't feel good at this ending, and it's trying to feel good, and I don't know. But yeah, and Val Kilmer's here for a bit. Like, there's people who just jump in this movie. It's like someone owed favors or something around. Like, cause Carrie Fisher's in like a scene. Val Kilmer comes in, and I was doing some stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, there's bonus features and stuff on this DVD, and they're like, oh yeah, he came in for a cameo. We just kept shooting. I'm like, was Val cool with that? Like, did he? Be
The camera was on. I was in the bathroom, man.
You compensated him for that. They had like a huge premiere for this and shit they were talking about. So like, I don't know, but Jonathan Tucker, don't know if I've seen him in something this early.
He must die.
Yeah, he must die. But yeah, so Scott, why were you so high on Stateside? What?
So I was watching Aaron slowly get it.
Scott, why were you so high on Stateside?
This is the kind of movie that, as you know, that I am predisposed to give miles and miles and miles of rope to, just on principle. But while I don't find anything particularly offensive or in bad faith about it, it just didn't do anything for me. It's you're right. It's a very overcomplicated movie. There's a lot of stuff that happens. It feels very, and this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's very melodramatic in the sense that, and then the tornado came, and then the earthquake, and then, whatever. I always appreciate seeing actors I like in regular non-franchisee roles, whether it's Joe Mantegna, Val Kilmer, sort of at the tail end of his, frankly, I don't know when he actually got sick, but I know even by the mid 2000s, it was sort of a happy surprise to see Val Kilmer show up in something. And Rachel Leigh Cook, deserves better, frankly. I mean, she should have been a breakout in She's All That.
Mm-hmm. Well, she kept doing these like little indie, like she has this one, and then she had that what's the one with like the clock time? What was that movie called? It's like a
Clock Watchers?
No, it's around this time, I believe. It's a time. I'll look it up. Keep going.
I mean, obviously Josie the Pussycats has a cult following, justifiably. It's a fun movie. But
just like The Notebook.
But as far as this film, I mean, it's
11/14. That was it. 11/14.
Oh, right.
2003.
Speaking of movies, time forgot.
No kidding, Jesus. And you're right. This is another rom-com where I'm like almost rooting against the not because I think they're a bad match, but there seems to be a certain, push-pull between, and maybe I'm oversimplifying this, but isn't there a way they could be together and she gets the help she needs?
No.
There seems to be, it's like, why does it have to be one or the other? And if it's going to be one or the other, I hope she gets the help she needs.
Yeah.
And no, I mean, I don't have that much to say about it. It's certainly not a visual knockout or anything like that, where it's like, oh, well, at least the visuals are nice or whatever. But it's
pedestrian.
It's a muddle.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's a nothing burger of a movie because there's actually quite a bit of movie in this movie. It just didn't do anything for me.
Gotcha. Did it do it for you, Aaron?
No. Scott, you said there's nothing offensive about it. I feel like people that deal with schizophrenia would be very offended by this movie. But that's neither here nor there because that's not the sole reason this movie sucks so much. The main problem is that it's ostensibly a romance about these two characters and they have no chemistry whatsoever. Nothing between Tucker and Cook. Cook's trying the best she can, but again, when you're playing a role with a disability, that's a roll of a dice right there. And if you have a movie like this that nobody's heard of, chances are probably not a secret great performance in that movie. Jonathan Tucker's in that role zone of like Josh Lucas and Cole Hauser for me, where when they play like assholes, I'm fine with because they're good at that. But if you try to make them the hero, no, thank you. And Jonathan Tucker does nothing for me.
Tucker he did Justified, right? He was really good on that.
He played Boone on Justified. He was a great asshole in that.
Yeah,
he's an asshole in The Ruins. Also, he's like like Todd Ashmore is the good one. the two of them, although they're all assholes and they all get what they deserve. The Ruins rocks. But this movie does not rock. It's bad. Not that. Yeah, the Tucker. For all I know, he's a great guy. Good for him and what have you. But this is not the role for him.
He's not likable. Like screen presence wise, you're like, what an ass. Like he gets away with shit at the beginning, and then just watching him. Yeah, you're just like, yeah.
No,
it's on paper and on screen. Like this is not a likable character.
It's not engaging to watch him in this movie. The story is, like you said, overcomplicated yet somehow not involving. Like it's a very busy film with nowhere to go, basically. No, there's just nothing really that impressive about it. There's much I need to really expand on. I will say that Val Kilmer is really great in the 2004 film Spartan. And since I don't, no other space to talk about that movie ever, I'll talk about it right now. That movie's excellent. It's my favorite David Mamet film. Kilmer just knocks out that dialogue. It's great. Macy's in there, of course. Ed O'Neill has a cameo. Clark Gregg's in it. Antoine Fisher himself is in that movie. Like, there's just so much great about the movie Spartan that I could talk about all day because I'd rather do that than watch Stateside again.
I got a question about this movie. What year is it in this movie?
The date. It exists in some nebulous zone where everyone
they're driving like cars from the 40s and 50s, and then she's like punk rocking like 90s, and I'm like, and then the military stuff feels old, but I
think
just
it's
had
the early 80s.
I'll be okay. But yeah, I don't know. It was like really confusing because it was like either an old time or modern, or like, because the actors act modern, and that doesn't help. And the insane asylum looks like it's from the 20s, and then he's driving a car from the 40s. The military stuff like could be 80s. The punk rock stuff doesn't like
it involves.
It's apparently set in the 70s.
Okay, nobody in this movie's performance says that at all. Like, yeah,
it's not very good.
No.
It has no consistency. It feels like the director culled a bunch of things from films that he likes, modeled it off of this random story involving Sarah Holcomb, who, as we all remember, is in Animal House, as well as decides to be Irish in a Caddyshack. Because why not? And took that, extrapolated it to like whatever the fuck this is, and made it nothing really special out of this movie.
Correct.
It's a movie time forgot, and for good reason, and it's hard to find, and there's not ample demand for this one. I don't see Kino putting Stateside out.
No, like, yep.
Am I gonna roll my eyes in like months when for some reason this pops up with the Criterion as one of the random collections?
This would be like MVD Rewind. This is where this goes. Yeah, this is where that would go. This one just no.
Bill Creek.
No, thank you. Do not stay stateside. But yeah, so enough with this movie. Let's move on to Ryan Seacrest's weekly top 40, where we have a new number 1 this week.
No diggity.
American Top 40 with Ryan Seacrest. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. American Top 40.
Yeah. At number 10, we have My Band, D12 featuring M&M. Number 9, dropping from number 7, is If I Ain't Got You by Alicia Keys. Number 8, climbing up 2 spots, The Reason by Hoobastank.
It's you.
And number 7, bump it up from number 11, All Falls Down, Kanye West featuring Selena Johnson. Number 6, climbing up some spots, Overnight Celebrity by Twista. Staying strong at number 5, This Love, Maroon 5, as well as number 4, Naughty Girl by Beyonce. So here we go. Yeah, which had number 1 for like 11 weeks. Usher featuring Lil Chris and Lil Jon has fallen to number 3. Who knocked him out? Who knocked out Usher? Number 2 stayed the same. So it wasn't I Don't Want to Know by Mario Winans featuring P. Diddy and Enya. Who knocked Usher out of number 1? Usher knocked Usher out of number 1 with Burn.
I was going to guess the love theme from Van Helsing.
Oh, close. That was number 12. Beckinsale in the Clouds, we know. But yeah, so Usher the 3 episodes, 3 Usher number 1s. So congrats, Usher. You knocked yourself out of the
ushering in a new era of Usher.
Like both of those songs are like the 2 like biggest songs of the year, right? Like I think
so. Yeah. Burn, which was his like, okay, I need to do You Got It Bad again, and we'll do Burn. So that's pretty much for that. Yeah, it was its own thing.
He had the drama and the club hit. Like he had
Yeah.
it covered.
You could not escape that year, like at all. Pretty crazy stuff. But the hit song that we're going to talk about from this movie is "Accidentally in Love," which is from Shrek 2.
I was holding out for a hero.
Ooh, well, yeah, you could do that.
We're supposed to be having a fiesta!
Here comes
Better out than in, I always say.
one of the biggest parties of the year.
Shrek and Donkey on another whirlwind adventure.
It's Sleeping Beauty!
With more friends
Come here, little kitty, kitty, kitty. Come on.
and new surprises.
You're
Dying, baby!
Shrek 2.
Cut in place. Yeah!
What? This film not yet rated. Starts Friday, May 21st everywhere.
Which Shrek 2 is directed by Andrew Adams, Kelly Asbury, and Conrad Vernon. Written by Andrew Adamson, Joe Stillman, J. David Stem, David N. Weiss, on a story by Andrew Adamson based on the book by William Steig. So, troublesome film. Look at all the writers. Look at that. Just write Shrek jokes. All right, starring Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, Cameron Diaz, Julie Andrews, Antonio Banderas, John Cleese, Rupert Everett, and Jennifer Saunders. Shrek and Fiona travel to the kingdom of Far, Far Away, where Fiona's parents are king and queen, to celebrate their marriage. When they arrive, they find they are not as welcome as they thought they would be. So I mentioned the Counting Crows song. That was originally not the song they were going to go with. Weezer had one, and they didn't like it. They didn't think it fit. So they asked the Counting Crows to write one for the movie, and we got Accidentally in Love.
They also didn't like the Pixies song that they wrote for the movie. So,
No.
well, being a giant Pixies fan, I was like, there's a Pixies song going to be in Shrek 2, and then it wasn't there. And I like that song. I have that song.
Weezer got another shot. They did a cover of something in one of the sequels. So
one of the beloved sequels.
One of those, yeah. Beloved sequels. So speaking of this sequel, though, Aaron, Shrek the Second.
There's a scene early on in Shrek 2 during the Accidentally Love montage, actually, where Shrek and Fiona are on the beach and they're making out, and then a wave washes in and a mermaid is on Shrek, and Fiona comes over and grabs the mermaid and throws her into the ocean, and then two sharks immediately descend on her. Anyone that knows me knows that is exactly my kind of joke. And so seeing this movie like the opening weekend, I was all in. That was just like, I was there's few movies where like there's one joke that I'm still laughing at like half an hour later. I think the most recent film that happened was Toy Story 4 with the Key and Peele stuff that was going on in that movie. Where like I'm still like enjoying the movie I'm watching, but I'm also like, but that other joke killed me. And so that's basically my attitude of Shrek 2. I think this movie's very enjoyable. Even watching it now, I'm just still in the camp of like, I don't think it's necessarily better than the first film, but it does a damn good job of rivaling it. I think it's just really funny. I think it knows how to like play off of what the first was doing while still doing its own thing. It doesn't feel like it's just the next one, but bigger and better. It has a different storyline. It has different circumstances it's going after to an extent in the realm of like this kind of a movie, as far as, fairy tale spoof type stuff. The cast is phenomenal here. Like the first film had a murderer's row of talent. The second one's like, let's do it again. And so we add on Antonio Banderas, and the most liked character in this franchise at this point, along with John Cleese and Jennifer Saunders. Like, that's just like, look at all this great stuff we have. The animation is noticeably better than the first one as well. That's something I've always noticed since watching it in theaters, that it's just like, it's a better looking movie just by nature of how animation works. It's upgraded. And along with like the effects just being better, presumably it has a bigger budget to work with too, just because of the success of the first. I genuinely, I know Scott will agree with this. I engage with the story, but like the Shrek 2 action scenes are great, and this is like the same year as Incredibles, and Incredibles obviously stomps all over this movie too in its own way. But I know that this movie doesn't slouch on like having cool action in the midst of like a movie that doesn't require action scenes. There are two specific scenes of like basically Shrek escaping both. There's like he's escaping one place and he's trying to invade another place. And it's like this should not be nearly as like cool as one would think for a Shrek movie, and yet here it is. So like it has a whole package of stuff that it just like gag. We can talk more about this, but there's like little gags throughout this thing that I've always enjoyed. Like when the giant gingerbread man stomps on a Starbucks and the people run across the street to another Starbucks. There's so many like good things in here that I just really like. But no, so I've always been a big fan of Shrek 2. I don't know if that's like cool or not to say these days, but I don't fucking care. Shrek 2's fun. I have a lot of fun with it.
Scott.
Yeah, this movie fucking rocks.
Scott, the DreamWorks shill.
Damn right, because of movies like this, damn it.
Yep.
I personally like it better than the first one, and that's not saying it's better or best. It's just what I really like about it. It's one of those ones that it has a good idea for the story, other than I guess we have to do another one. The idea of they go to visit her parents, and her parents don't know that she's now permanently an ogre. That is a wonderful hook. And yeah, sure, they were probably riffing on Meet the Parents at that time, but if you got it, you got it. It goes back to my old joke about, in some ways, many very good kids' films are just, G-rated versions of adult films. Like the first Peter Rabbit is basically Rushmore for kids. But anyway, yeah, the jokes are genuinely funny. You're watching the cops riff in a crowded theater, when his catnip is confiscated, everyone just goes batshit in the theater. It's a great audience movie, and it's a really thoughtful and intelligent adult, not an adult, but adult romantic comedy about the compromises that must occur in order, after happily ever after, which is how they advertised it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I've always liked about all four of these movies, whether I like each sequel individually or not, is they're all pretty honest portraits of adult romance and eventually family. I don't like Shrek the Third very much, but I kind of love the fact that in Shrek Go Forth, or the fuck it's called, final chapter.
Shrek
Forever After. Everything that Shrek was scared about happening in part 3 absolutely happens in part 4, because that's the way the world works, and he's got to come to terms with that. Thinking about Shrek 3 or Shrek 2, it is a thoughtful piece on Shrek realizing that Fiona has made compromises and changed and given stuff up to be with him, and that he needs to figure out to what extent he's willing to do the same. But beyond that, it's very funny. And the characters are so well developed that, one of the great payoffs is just during the big chase scene, which I'll get to in a second. Puss in Boots finally gets his point, says, okay, it is time for me to, make good on my vow. He pulls out his sword, and like everybody in the theater is like, yes, he's finally gonna do sword fighting and kick ass. And there's not a ton of sword fighting because it's a Shrek movie, but it's so emotionally satisfying. And of course, Aaron mentioned this. I mean, if I were a film professor, I wanted to explain how to create rising tension through editing in action sequence, I Need a Hero montage is one of the all-time great action editing sequences, at least in Hollywood history. I don't want to pretend that I memorized every fucking Hong Kong, but it is so pinpoint successful in terms of raising your emotional oomph as she sings louder and faster, and they dance louder and faster, and the urgency with Puss in Boots fighting, and the urgency with the Ginger Man doing his Godzilla thing or whatever. And
there's somehow there's pathos in the gingerbread man dying, like it's they're falling into water or whatever.
Right.
Like, and, A, it's funny, and B, it's emotionally valid, which is what happens when you do the work, even in quote unquote silly movies like this. And And I do have a minor nitpick with the very ending, and I don't think it's necessarily a criticism, but it was when I first started noticing that, yes, films sometimes have to make compromises because they're a franchise. And in my mind, it doesn't make a ton of sense that Shrek and Fiona decide to go back to looking like Shrek and Fiona, considering the journey that they've been on together. There are other ways that he can compromise, for her, and she can compromise for him. But of course, if he doesn't turn back into Shrek, then there's no more movie. Ergo, he has to make the choice to be an ogre again.
What world would you think that Shrek wouldn't be an ogre again, though? Like,
Donkey even says you like being an ogre.
That's not a compromise. Like,
it's a compromise for her. She compromises for him because he wants to still be an ogre. And I guess that's fine, but
they're their true selves. That's what being an ogre is.
Then she sees her father's true self as the frog. Like, so she's supposed to be, she's okay with
again, it's a minor nitpick.
I get it, Scott. You want more white people in Shrek movies. Okay.
Hashtag justice for charming. Jeez.
Wait a minute, is Diaz Hispanic? How does that work?
I nitpick with the end is, why are they singing "Living La Vida Loca"?
That's because the first
one.
I'm
like, this is dumb.
We get it. You're an Enrique Iglesias guy. We got it.
Yes, I am. I am an Enrique Iglesias guy.
I could be your hero.
He could be our hero.
I could be your hero, Donkey.
Yeah, because obviously the first Shrek ended with a giant musical thing, and that film basically invented that.
Shrek in the Swamp karaoke dance party.
Scott, it definitely did. Like, it went from rom-coms to like, who doesn't like a wedding at the end, to now we should have a musical number and a wedding at the end.
That being said, I remember seeing the first Shrek on opening night, and obviously I'd read the reviews. I knew it was going to be a good movie, but we're walking out of the theater, and like every person in the theater is either visibly dancing or subtly tapping their toes or somewhat grooving the music.
And Smash Mouth in 2001.
Well, it's like, oh yeah, this was gonna be a fucking huge movie. And that was like, oh, this is gonna be so fucking huge. Because every single person is either dancing or sort of mentally dancing as they walk out of the theater.
Yeah.
It fully earned it in the first movie.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Default, like, I guess we need a song now. What song?
I agree with you.
So like everyone else, I was a gigantic fan of the first one, and I like Shrek. What? Like I had to like get a recommendation, be like, okay, I'll check it, and I loved it. And I was in college at the time, and I was like converting people. I'm like, because you're with a bunch of college kids that aren't gonna watch a cartoon that they thought was for. I'm like, no, watch this movie, and loved it. And so I have that one down. So when you say like, yeah, I prefer the first one, but the second one's a great effort with it that keeps it afloat and is like a nice, more than just a victory lap with everything. Like I noticed there's a lot of, it does the common sequel thing of the reversals, with everything. So the first one was about Fiona, bringing her into being an ogre, and this one's about turning them into humans. They, the royal castle was a dangerous place. In the previous ones, they're welcome to them here. A lot of playing around here with everything, and it's fun. Like Aaron said, there's those little gags that get you. And I'll add that one of my favorite things that the Shrek series does that I absolutely adore and love and laugh my ass off is all their like ancillary extras background characters and the faces they make and the way they behave. It's different than all the main characters, and it's just so inconsequential a lot of times, and weird, but like I laugh at those people like more than anything. And I'll always, when I go back to these, I'll catch a new face on one of them or something, just like the dumb looks in their face. Like I don't know.
DreamWorks can do really well too.
They do it well. Like
specifically DreamWorks thing.
Yeah, it is totally there. Like, yeah, Pixar don't care about the extras. Trying to steal a scene, or if you're paying attention, they might steal a scene.
It'll be like sight gag, but not like with the people themselves. Like that seems like, because DreamWorks tends to have more humans, I think, in their movies than Pixar does.
Yeah, that's true. But that's all here. They, it's generally this just it works. Like I'm sure it's a hard move to make a Shrek 2 because Shrek feels like a completed fairy tale. So where they go, let's make like adult decisions. What other kind of characters can we add to this? The fairy tales, can we add this? And you have Banderas, who gives a performance, which I love. I've complimented a lot of things, like the Ninja Turtles movie that just came out. Like, people showed up to do an animated film performance for that movie. I saw the dubbed version of Boy and the Heron last year, and people showed up to give performances there that weren't just, I'm an actor, here I am, I'm in the movie, but I'm animated. They are realizing the medium they're in, rather than a lot of times, like, I get upset for a while, but there are like dedicated voice actors to animation, video games and stuff that do such a good job, revel in this stuff and get it right. And they get replaced a lot of times because a big name could be attached to it, and they just show up and be like, "What's all right?" So, and not that person's mailing it in, but they're not. Yeah.
Yeah. Scott's going to choke down my throat, but that's also a symptom of the lesser DreamWorks movies.
Right. No, it's a symptom of it's a symptom of like the animation all
movies
through.
like this were so damn successful that it kind of became
Brad Pitt's Megamind or whatever the fuck.
Yeah. Like, he's okay in Megamind. Sinbad, he sucks.
Pixar has that too to degrees. Like, and nobody's nobody's innocent. Like, but that's the thing that'll happen. They'll get crazy with the name rather than just the memorable anime. Because like, go ahead and name the voice actors from all your beloved 80s, 90s animated films, or the classic Disney ones. Like, we know those names, but what else did you see them in?
There's been a push-pull with that at least since The Lion King, probably.
Yeah,
because obviously, people point to Aladdin with Robin Williams, but he was the only celebrity there.
And if anything, Aladdin,
dude, Steve from Full House, man, everybody out.
Aladdin's the one that, if anything, started all this for all anime movies. So it's
but by Lion King is like the entire cast is people you know.
I mean, Beauty and the Beast had Lansbury. Right? Does that count?
And Jerry Orbach, obviously.
Yeah.
Put some respect on that name.
How she didn't get Belle, I don't know, but all right. But yeah, Shrek 2 rocks. It's fun.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome.
I'll push and pull you out, man. Living La Vida Loca. It's like, yeah.
And yeah, I mean,
they could have done Shaker Bon Bon. They could have done that at the end. You imagine that?
I mean, they could have done Don't Keep Breaking My Heart, but Ellen Shan.
Because the song that, like, this does not matter, but like, I'm a Believer makes thematic sense in that movie to me.
Yes.
Luca's just like, what can we get?
Hey, look, it's a Spanish cat.
Banderas is here. We need something with a Latin flavor for the fucking far, far away kingdom for whatever reason.
Bailamos.
Let's do La Vida. Yeah, Bailamos is the song for Wild Wild West. It's like, why? What? Why are there clips of Wild Wild West in this music video for Bailamos? La Vida Loca is just like, it just takes me. Even watching it now, I'm just like, I know this is coming, but they're gonna say "puss a donkey, y'all," and I'm gonna get really upset again, even though it's like all joyous.
Well, they do a roll call credits with this too. That kind of feels, yeah.
I actually really like the roll call because I always like roll call credits.
Yeah,
but I also like the specific choices they make for them. When they get to like John Cleese and he's like doing his little dance.
Yes,
like, this does not need to happen, but it's charming to see that.
No,
Jennifer Saunders, by the way, is really great. I know we like the main cast is like really easy to talk about. Jennifer Saunders is very fun in this, and that's why
she does the best version of I Need a Hero. Period.
That's a fun role, and like nowadays to be like Meryl Streep's going to be an animated movie. Jennifer Saunders is still like a pretty, I know she's obviously absolutely fabulous and everything. It's not like she's an unknown, but like for Shrek 2, that's an interesting choice they would make for the villain, and she really delivers. Like that's
Would you say she was absolutely fabulous?
I would. It's a calculated
fab
on DreamWorks' part.
No, it's a movie that, frankly, like the first Shrek, was much better than it needed to be.
Yeah.
And if memory serves right, the third and fourth, like I remember watching those. I didn't see either in the theater, but like when I did watch them, I was like, they put this in a theater, like they felt very like I feel like they took a giant step down. They felt direct to video, like story wise, character like
especially the third. I mean, I'm not going to fight for
I
the
haven't seen
fourth.
either since I saw them in theaters.
I did QC the DVDs and stuff for them, and I remember watching them being like, "Holy shit, they really like didn't even try." Like, not to say no one tried, but just like it felt so smaller scale and just like low stakes that like I'm like, this feels like the straight to video sequels to something.
The third one I do remember having like bits that I think worked well, but no, I don't like look at it and be like, oh, when I watch Shrek, I gotta watch all three of them or whatever. I stop at two.
It's not the worst. Not the worst. Oh,
the fourth one I actively hated. The fourth one, like, it's got. I respect the I can.
He didn't say he liked it. He didn't say he liked it.
I know you didn't say you liked it either, but I can agree with you that like the similar like Batman and Robin, the beat that they're going for from a story perspective is interesting.
Yeah.
You know, like the idea of Shrek having a midlife crisis essentially. That's neat to me, but the movie just calls completely.
Yeah, and my problem is, the whole he travels to an alternate timeline where he'd never been born or whatever the hell. It's like, no, you do that in the fucking TV show. You don't waste an entire goddamn movie on that plot.
By the way, Shrek the Third is not the worst collaboration of Justin Timberlake and Mike Myers. I would just put that out there.
It's not. You're absolutely right.
Far from
it. Far from it.
Far.
The worst what?
Collaboration.
AT and Eminem.
You confused him. Mike Myers, Justin Timberlake. Not the worst movie they did together.
Oh, the two of them. Were they in a Love Guru together?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they were.
Yes, they were.
Okay, that's fair.
Yes.
To be fair, I don't think I've ever actually watched the Love Guru.
Lucky.
I believe Justin Timberlake plays the character named Jacques Lecoq.
Oh, okay.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I let other people take the hits for me on that one.
So, right on. So, did Shrek 2 do good at the box office, Scott? Did it?
I don't know.
Did it make?
I mean, okay. I mean, I can talk about Shrek without a chart, so I'm gonna buy myself some time.
How many awards at Cannes did it win?
Shrek opened on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Where it made, frankly, a lower than I expected $11 million. And then it made a lower than I thought was expecting $9 million. I went to see it on Thursday night in an almost empty theater. So I'm thinking, uh-oh, is this going to bomb? Spoiler, it did not bomb. It does 28 million on Friday. It does 44 on Saturday, with breaking Spider-Man's record for the biggest single day gross for any movie. Ends up doing 108 million over its Friday to Sunday weekend. It's behind only Spider-Man, which had made 114 million over its standalone Friday, Sunday weekend. Did $128 million over its Wednesday to Friday debut. Great reviews, rave word of mouth. It legs out all summer, ends up with 441 million domestic, becoming the leggiest $100 million opener ever. A milestone it would keep, yes, because it opened on a Wednesday, but whatever. It would keep that milestone until Top Gun Maverick, which also opened during a holiday weekend. I'll bet a Monday or a Friday to Monday weekend. At the time, Shrek 2, $441 million. That was the third biggest movie of all time behind Titanic and the lifetime total of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
It did about 916 worldwide, becoming the biggest grossing animated feature of all time. A milestone it would keep until Toy Story 3 in 2010.
Yep.
I
have a question. Are we in the midst of Hollywood learning that if you put some effort into it, if you try, you can make sequels that make money and get well reviewed? Like, are we, because sequels used to be and I think we're in this time where you get an X2, Spider-Man 2, Shrek 2, like where it's starting to build this comfort zone and a must. At the same time, there's some in the horror world right now, we're getting like remakes of stuff you'd have thought was untouchable being successful that bleeds into other things. But I feel like
you're getting those filmmakers that grew up with the originals to begin with. So
yeah.
and the ones that are talented are the ones that are pulling off
Yeah.
which is really helping. And at the same time, there's this rise of like the superhero films and films like it, where they have an origin story first one that has a certain kind of template, so it's automatically popular because that resonates with people. And then the second time around, they have this chance to kind of blow out the doors because they can do whatever they want. And again, the talented filmmakers, your Nolans, your Del Toros, what have you, they're pulling it off really well. Like so, it's
because right now, if you ask someone in 2004, sequels suck is probably still a motif.
Yeah.
It's winding down because I would say, and again, I do not like Austin Powers and Spy Who Shagged Me, but I know since then I was in the minority. I don't know about now. But that was sort of the start of basically a 10-year streak of, generally speaking, what you're saying, well-received, well-liked successfuls that out-earned their predecessors, sometimes monumentally so. Pirates of the Caribbean would come out in summer 2006. That, whether you like the movie or not, the money's on and the effort is on the screen.
Talented
filmmaker. A classic, breakout sequel. It breaks the opening weekend record. That's the film that finally breaks Spider-Man's hold on the opening weekend record.
And you have this zone where, because like 70s are director driven and 80s do their thing. 2000s, there's a zone where like you have producers rising and giving a chance to interesting minds. So you have Jerry Bruckheimer, who can back it with money, giving something to Gore Verbinski and being like, this guy has ideas I like. I'm going to give him a shit ton of money to do that thing. You have a lot of things. Obviously, that leads to like, there's a downside to that eventually, but yeah, that's kind of where we're. So yeah, the Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter are perfect examples of that as well. It's like we can do whatever and let's find some cool people to direct these movies. Like it pays off in interesting ways. Box office wise, I will say, I'm not the money whiz kid that Scott was since inception, but
he knew Ethan Hawke was no good.
But like it was 2001 when I started taking like a more of an interest in box office, because that was like the year when like multiple $200 million domestic movies happened in the same summer, and it was like, this is interesting. And so like when Shrek 2 was happening, I was tracking that all summer long because I was just so floored by the fact that they had this ridiculous opening weekend.
It won't stop.
And I was like, where is this going? And I know
it was like bigger than Jesus.
I've seen the trailers. I'm like, I know what movies are coming. And I'm like, what's going to stop this behemoth right now? Is Roland Emmerich going to pull a fast one on us? Like, what's going on here? And so it was pretty wild to watch this.
Jake Gyllenhaal ain't going to stop that haul.
Yeah, it's just watching as a high school, I was out of high school. As a high school graduate, just watching the numbers week after week because I was just genuinely interested in what was going on. It was like, this is nuts. Shrek 2 is like killing it right now. And everyone in my area, at least, was like also liking it. It wasn't like this begrudging respect. It was like, we all love this thing and it's doing great. So
yeah, I mean, beyond everything else, it's one reason why it legged out is it's a great fucking movie.
And this was like separate. Like there was nothing out. Like there was like a new game in town with animation with Shrek. Like it was like, okay, here's an alternative, like a successful quality and like alternative to Pixar, to Disney. There you go.
And also helping, I mean, without going into too many details for the coming weeks, is Memorial Day weekend is huge. And then you've got a Harry Potter film. But after that, you basically have a month where Shrek 2 is still the 500, 900-pound gorilla. All due respect to Aaron's favorite movie, The Dune That Wasn't. But so yeah, it was the the big dog, so to speak, for a good month, and by which time it had already made a gajillion dollars. And
that Cannes Festival cred really paid off.
I'm sorry?
It was
Cannes Film Festival cred really paid off for Shrek 2.
Yeah.
So what everybody else do, Scott?
Oh fuck, who cares?
Me?
Let's see.
The listeners. They don't know how to look it up on their own.
That is kind of sad if you think about it. Stalling for time. Well, I went way ahead here. Hold on, I got way off base. My God, we're in August. Okay, we're back. Yeah, Shrek did $108 million. Number 2 was Troy, dropping 49% with $24 million, with
Not
an
bad.
$86 million 10-day
Be
total.
a great
Not bad.
drop today.
Yeah. It was an okay hold even
not
back
bad.
then.
Like for an R-rated 3-hour movie that
Yeah.
everyone's last week was like, yeah, it's fine.
Because there wouldn't be, I'm going off memory, forgive me, but there wouldn't be a ton of R-rated competition of this nature for the next few weeks. It would eventually end up with 133 domestic, and again, $497 million worldwide, which was insane for an R-rated movie back then. Especially one that allegedly nobody liked. Number 3, Van Helsing, dropping 49% in weekend 3, 10.5 million for the weekend. It would cross 100 million on day 17. It would cash out at 120 domestic, 300 worldwide. Excuse me. Mean Girls, sticking around.
Cannot be stopped.
in weekend 4. What was that?
Cannot be stopped.
Cannot be stopped.
Still around right now.
More or
Still
less.
playing.
Now there's a sing-along version. Man on Fire, $3.6 million, minus 28% in weekend 5. Breaking All the Rules would drop 44% in its second weekend for $2.8 million for a $9 million 10-day total. It's pretty much finished. 13 going on 30, 2.5, minus 38%, 52 million domestic after a month. New York Minute in 8th place, 1.6, minus 66%. 12.6 million after 17 days. That one's pretty much done too. Kill Bill Volume 2 still around in its 6th weekend, earning 1.1 million, dropping 31%, also losing 550 theaters.
I should note, I was seeing that movie every chance I could. I loved Kill Bill 2. Like, I liked Kill Bill. I loved 2. I was saying that, like, every time I could, if there's nothing else out, I'd be like, I'm jumping to Kill Bill 2 again. I was watching that a lot.
Yeah, and then Laws of Attraction was number 10.
I have Supersize Me.
Oh, I'm
with
sorry.
970.
I was going to separate. Yes, Supersize Me, which I guess I don't have to talk about Laws of Attraction. Supersize Me would expand to 35. It would add 35 screens for 148 screens in its third weekend. It would earn $975,000 for a $6,600 per screen average, bringing its 17-day total up to 2.9 million. It would slowly leg out to 11.5 million domestic, 20.6 worldwide. Which again, very good for a documentary, but when you consider the pop culture impact the film made, it was a classic more talked about than actually seen. And that's not necessarily a criticism in this case.
Scott.
The day with, sorry, what was that?
This is an interesting thing I'm pondering. Is this the first time since early in summer of 82 at 40 that we had a top 10 that included a movie that didn't make at least $1 million that weekend?
Maybe,
because I know in 82 it took like 4 weeks before like everything had made at least $1 million.
Like in the summer?
Starting in May. Actually, okay, so going back last year, 3 of Hearts on our first episode with Dragon the Bruce Lee story, Dave, an American Heart. 3 of Hearts was in 10th with $927,000, and that is the last time, because then everything else makes $1 million at worst. So this is where I'm sure Shrek makes up for the rest of it, but like,
oh yeah,
it's just weird that I'm like, oh wow, something that didn't make $1 million in the top 10, and we're in 2004.
The good news is that June is going to be very crowded.
June is very packed.
Yeah.
Yuva would open in 22nd place for $210,000 for a $7,000 per screen average. It would top out at $567,000 worldwide. Okay. I don't know if that actually includes India.
So it made its money back.
I'm sorry? Oh yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Stateside would open in 35th place in 156 theaters. It would earn $113,620 for a $728 per screen average. It would top out at probably not much more than that. Yeah, $174,000.
The family and friends of all the people involved wanted to see it.
And other than that, Oh, Space Station 3D still around,
Let
110 weeks later.
That has
So-
like a I remember I was saying the weeks on that is crazy. It's just
Yeah,
always-
is that the
somewhere in
Tom
there.
Cruise one?
Space Station 3D? That's the no. I can't think of it, but that was a perennial IMAX movie. I know that.
I am a member. I should be allowed to log in.
Let Me If You Dare in 75th.
Yes, Tom Cruise.
It is a Tom Cruise. Okay.
Here's a no, which by the way would make $93 million domestic, $128 million worldwide. Playing for 976 weeks. Oh, that's obviously periodic re-releases. But still, holy shit. That's if that had magically topped 100 million, that would have given him $200 million grossers this summer. But I digress. Although again, that one came out in well, I guess he did because it came out in 2002, Rex the Minority Report. Anyway, I'm babbling. Moving on. Any other weird shit here? Control Room. I assume we're talking about that later.
Nope.
No?
That one was removed.
Then I'll be really quick. It was another, of the moment activist-ish educational political documentary that came out this summer. It is a behind-the-scenes look at Al Jazeera, which was the Middle Eastern-owned, Middle Eastern-operated global news network at a time when, for obvious reasons, it was both somewhat controversial and to a certain extent an essential news service, because regardless of what his bias might be at any given time, at the time it was considered an independent voice in journalism for the Middle East that wasn't necessarily controlled by state governments.
Oh, actually, we will be talking about Control Room in a couple episodes. Sorry.
Never mind. But forget I just said that.
It opens wide in June. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it I saw it probably around June.
So that's a sneak peek.
What a doc.
Yeah, Let Me If You Dare.
Plays.
Yep.
$21,000 in 3 theaters. It would end with $553,000 and 8.5 million worldwide.
Regular Yuva there.
Yeah.
Let Me If You Dare.
Except for the 8.5 million worldwide.
Yeah.
S21, the Khmer Rouge killing machine. Sounds very uplifting. Fun.
All right.
And I think that's about it.
All right. Cool.
Yeah. Shrek for the win.
Yep. Shrek 2.
Shrek 2, by the way, before we go, I will mention that Shrek 2 started what I like to call, really creative here, the Shrek 2 principle, which would I mean that even, in some cases, a film that opens on Monday or Wednesday to Thursday, even if it has slightly underwhelming numbers, hold your breath and wait till Friday, because it might be the kind of film that, for whatever reason, the vast majority of the populace was just waiting to the conventional weekend to see.
Yeah.
So it's been giving false hope to Wednesday, Thursday openers for 20 years.
From the guy who brought you the Tomb Raider trap comes the Shrek 2 principle.
Pretty much.
There we go. All right. So that'll do it for this May 21st to 23rd week in the summer of 2004 at 20. So Scott, where can people keep up with more of those Shrek 2 and Tomb Raider traps?
I have a weekly column at Puck News for the I'm gonna cough. Hey, I apologize. Excuse me. I am at Puck News. I have a weekly column as part of his the Sunday What I'm Hearing newsletter. And then I started up my own Substack called The Outside Scoop that I basically am doing daily. So join, subscribe, pay up. Hopefully in that order, I guess. Although I really don't care what order it is, as long as the money shows up at some point. That's what's important.
All right. Some of that money might be Aaron's. Aaron, where can you?
Wait, what?
Where can people find you?
I'm paying
slowly stealing from Scott's pockets, apparently, as part of that.
Oh, God, I've got kids. You don't.
I host a podcast called Out and Out There and Abe. My friend Abe and I discuss new movies on a weekly basis, along with other fun that we do constantly throughout the year. I write for League of Entertainment for movie reviews and Wise to Blue for Blu-ray and Criterion reviews. I am on Twitter and all the socials at Aaron's PS4.
All right, I'm on social media and that Letterboxd. You gotta go to Letterboxd. It's all the rage. At Brandon 4KUHD, you can find all info on PopCon Louisville. including the live podcast stage, which is happening August 21st through 26th. All that's on popcon.us. So if you're listening to this on a Soul Plane on a Friday, the day after tomorrow will be saved from raising hell N on the next episode as the summer of 2004-20 continues.
The summer of 2004.